Hi there, this is Datila, and welcome to the Wrestling Time Post Show. And for tonight, I will be reviewing WWE Monday Night Raw. Tonight's Raw was a fallout from Survivor Series War Games, and it kicked off with the returning Becky Lynch. Alright, so she came out and she was basically talking about how it feels so good to be back and say welcome to Monday Night Raw. She was talking about how she missed the crowd and how she's the man of the people and she should be with the people. And so she goes into this crowd and she starts to like high five people. So she stops at this one guy named Bobby. He's wearing a yellow X-Men sweater, I should say. And she starts talking about how like she's ready to go through hell, jump off the top of the cages, and put her body on the line. And not to mention, she gets the fans to chant for this guy, Bobby. She says that there are new faces around and familiar faces are back. And she also talks to this guy named Zach. But before she can go any further, Bayley interrupts her and tells her to shut up. Bayley says that she gets no respect after everything she's done these last 4 months. She says that the idiots have no appreciation for their role model. And she calls Bob a peasant and says he sucks. Becky says that Bob does not suck. And that the reason why Bayley is not respected is because she keeps losing. And Bob says to go kick Bayley's butt. And then out of nowhere, Dakota Kai and Io Sky come out and they attack Becky through the crowd. So this leads to a whole fight into the concession stand, and Bayley hits Becky Lynch with the Money in the Bank lunchbox until security comes and breaks up the fight. Okay, so I have to say, I kind of did not like this brawl because it's 3-on-1, and yet Becky somehow manages to overcome the odds and she takes out Damage Control. So I don't know what's up with that, but I did not like that. I just feel like Damage Control's booking has not been the best since they formed at SummerSlam. I mean, think about it this way. We all thought that they would win the women's tag team titles. They didn't. Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah won them. Then they won them after Clash at Castle. Then they lost them to Asuka and Alexa Bliss, and then they regained them. And right now, they're just holding those titles. They're pretty much props. Bayley couldn't get through Bianca, and she lost every single time she fought Bianca. So how is Damage Control taking over when it doesn't seem like they've accomplished their goal? So I don't like the Damage Control booking, and I didn't like that 3-on-1 overcoming the odds type of booking. And it was 3-on-1. Damage Control should have beat the tar out of Becky Lynch, but that didn't happen. But overall, this opening segment wasn't bad. We get Rhea Ripley versus Michin, Mia Yim. Oh, and in case you don't know, Michin means crazy in Korean, as we're constantly reminded. So this is actually not a bad match. I was actually enjoying this match. I mean, of course, like at first Mia is taking it to Rhea. Dominic gets involved in this. He causes a distraction. And there's this one spot where Mia tells Dominic to back up and Rhea almost crashes into him. And then in another instance, he causes another distraction and Mia pulls him into the ring. But the match ends in a DQ because AJ Styles, the club, as well as the rest of Judgment Day all get involved and a brawl breaks out. So I think this is like the first DQ in who knows how long. I don't remember when was the last DQ we had. And you know where this is going, player. Holla! So AJ Styles eventually ends up saying that he thought this was over at Survivor Series, but he said it's going to end tonight. He challenges Judgment Day to a tag match. So we get an 8-person tag match, Judgment Day versus the OC, which actually was not a bad match. I actually enjoyed that 8-person tag match. Oh, and another thing too, the first hour of Raw was commercial free. So like one of the strategies that the OC implemented here was that they isolated Finn Balor and they had quick tags to keep isolating him. Eventually, Judgment Day is able to tag somebody else in, like Damian Priest, who eventually gives Doc Gallows a blow to the midsection, and then he gives him an elbow to the face. Then Judgment Day does the same thing, but this time they do it to Carl Anderson, who gets isolated from his team. He suffers a knee to the back and a backbreaker at the hands of Damian Priest, and as well as he suffers a neck breaker by Finn Balor. Dominic attempting to do the Three Amigos to Carl Anderson. He does 2 suplexes, and then he does the whole Eddie thing, and then he does a third one. Finn Balor trying to add insult to injury by attempting to do a Styles Clash on poor Carl Anderson. Doc Gallows sends Damian Priest into the announce table. Rhea Ripley attempts to kick AJ Styles, but he catches her. And this allows Finn Balor to do a sling blade to AJ Styles. I have no idea where Mia Yim was during this. I mean, you have Rhea breaking up the pin and trying to do a kick to AJ, yet where was Mia Yim while she was doing this? At some point during all this madness, Dominic saves Damian Priest from a magic color, and I actually really like that they did this. Mia Yim body slammed Finn Balor. I actually like that they did that because it gave Mia a moment in this match, kind of like how they gave Rhea Ripley a moment when she pretty much body slammed Doc Gallows on Raw. And so Judgment Day is victorious after Rhea hits Mia Yim with the Riptide, and so Judgment Day continues to remain strong. Even though Finn Balor lost last at Survivor Series on Saturday, it did not affect him in this match. So AJ Styles needed that win. This time around, Judgment Day keeps winning their feuds. So they have been booked strong since Triple H took over in creative. And I honestly feel like this 8-person tag match could have happened at Survivor Series, and you could have had an elimination style match to kind of go on with that tradition, but I guess they used a War Games match for that. But overall, it was a good first hour of Monday Night Raw. We get a Street Profits backstage interview / segment, and they're talking about how it feels so good to be back and how everything is changing. They make mention of how Becky's back and Theory lost his briefcase, and then Chad Gable interrupts and says he requested a match with the Street Profits, and Street Profits say that they've beaten Alpha Academy before. So I don't know where the Street Profits have been. I didn't read anything about them being injured. Maybe they were just written out of storylines for the time being. I'm not entirely sure. So I didn't read any news report on Street Profits if they were injured or not. So we get a Bloodline segment, and wow, they just continue telling the story of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline here. So basically, it starts off as your typical Bloodline segment. You know, the same shtick that the Bloodline is in the city. So Jey says that they went to war on Saturday at War Games in one of the worst matches they've ever been in, and he thinks he broke his hand for real. So Jimmy goes on to say that for the first time ever, there are no cracks in the Bloodline, and someone in the back is a bit mad. He's mad because Sami Zayn isn't his dog. He's their dog. And now, the thing is, a dog can have 2 connotations here. So, dog can mean as in, like, he's their homie, or dog as in he's their lapdog and he's going to do their dirty work for them or try to help them solve whatever problems that they have. So, I feel like that has 2 connotations there. And Sami Zayn cuts a really good promo talking about how for the past 6 months, Jimmy accepted him right away, and he's been down since day one. And then when he comes to Jey, Sami says that he knows it hasn't been easy and that Jey didn't trust him or even like him. But the way that Jey accepted him into the family and even embraced him, he says that was very Uzi. And that any Bloodline business that needs to be handled, they are on the same page. And we finally moved on to the next part in the storyline, because you guys remember these past couple months, like Sami Zayn pointed out here, Jey didn't trust Sami, and it was their arguing that oftentimes cost them some matches. But now that everybody's on the same page, and Sami Zayn extends his hand to Jey Uso, and then they do this big group hug, except for Solo Sikoa. They try to encourage him. As they're encouraging Solo Sikoa to come in for the group hug, Kevin Owens comes out. So I have to say, like, that group hug means that they're all on the same page. And finally, Sami Zayn has been accepted. They trust him. that betrayal is going to hurt even more once they finally turn on Sami Zayn. So as Kevin Owens is coming out, Sami Zayn tries to stop Kevin Owens from coming into the ring. And Kevin explains that he gets it. He completely understands why Sami chose to do what he did. Because he says that how many times has he turned his back on Sami? How many times has he stabbed Sami in the back? And he can't be mad at him. And this is true. Kevin Owens has always pretty much turned on Sami and stabbed him in the back since the Ring of Honor days when they were Kevin Steen and El Generico. So Kevin goes on to say that since Saturday, he can't help but to think how their careers have been linked. He doesn't want to fight, team, or ride with Sami Zayn anymore. He says that he is done and doesn't want anything to do with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn agrees and says he never wants to fight or team with Kevin Owens. He doesn't need Kevin Owens anymore because he has family now. And again, like that, when the betrayal comes, it's just gonna hurt so much more because like Sami Zayn considers a Bloodline family, and Kevin Owens is always going to be there for Sami Zayn, always. Kevin goes on to say how genuinely happy he is for Sami Zayn because everyone can see how great he is and that he's finally getting the recognition that he deserves. But he reminds Sami that he's not their real blood and he never will be. So I have to agree with Kevin. It's so great that Sami Zayn is finally getting the recognition that he deserves. It feels for like a long time Sami Zayn was just kind of there. And over the last year or so, he's really found his stride and he's really good at what he does. And I think it's finally good that he's finally getting recognized for it. What this will eventually lead to, I think him and KO are going to win those tag titles off of the Usos at WrestleMania. I would like it better if Sami Zayn is the one who takes the belts off Roman Reigns, but I don't think that's going to happen. So Jey steps in and says that Kevin Owens is just angry that he doesn't have family. And Kevin goes on to say, I'll kick your ass any day of the week. And this is a response to Jey Uso saying that if KO has a problem with Sami, then he has a problem with him. Main event Jey Uso. And honestly, this was a great freaking segment. It really was. And I liked it. I definitely want to see more of the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn Bloodline stuff because we're slowly moving to the breakup now. Like I said this during the Survivor Series review. The Elimination Chamber is in Sami Zayn's hometown of Montreal. Something is going to happen that is going to turn Sami Zayn into the biggest babyface in WWE. Whether the betrayal happens at Elimination Chamber or whether it happens before the Elimination Chamber, I definitely do think that the end goal here is KO and Sami reuniting and challenging the Usos for those tag titles at WrestleMania. So then we get Candice LeRae, who has come back after 5 weeks of being out after she's been attacked by Damage Control. And as she's walking to get interviewed, you can kind of see like Nikki Cross watching her. She basically reintroduces herself to Damage Control and she promises to take out Dakota Kai. Then we get the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. This is a good match. We've seen this match before. It's been a while since we've seen it, but it was a really good match. My favorite spot in this match was Montez Ford body slamming Otis, and then him hitting a frog splash to Chad Gable, so allowing the Street Profits to be victorious here. So it's kind of funny how both Montez Ford and his wife Bianca have picked up Otis. Okay. So we get an Austin Theory promo, and he starts talking about who's the kid now, and he said the kid that's had the worst Money in the Bank cash-in. He beat Rollins and Lashley at the same time. This kind of reminds me of that line that Jericho would always say, how he beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night to be undisputed champion. That kind of reminded me of that. He goes on to say that he is now a 2-time U.S. champion. He's the now, then, and forever and the face of Raw. And he says that everybody has been jealous of him since day one because everybody wants to be Austin Theory. He's younger. He's better. He says the Austin Theory era begins now. And so Seth Rollins comes out. And you guys know the crowd sings Seth Rollins' theme song. So Seth tells Austin Theory to shut his mouth and let the crowd sing, and they do sing. I've yet to experience being there live and singing Seth Rollins' theme, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be a fun moment. So Theory tells Rollins, what does it feel like that someone so young made a talent who is the undisputed future look like the past? Seth Rollins say that Monday nights belong to him, and that he has one thing left to say to Theory, and that's congratulations, kid. And he goes on to say that they don't have to wait to fight. They can do it right there and then. Theory reminds Seth Rollins that he will fight him on the champ's time. And he whispers to Seth Rollins, I'm not a damn kid. So I'm actually digging this new Austin Theory. This is exactly what he needed. Basically a repackage. And I'm digging this new Austin Theory. And under Triple H, I think this new Austin Theory can actually be a credible main eventer eventually. So we get a Miz segment. And he's basically showing up with the bag of money that he owes Dexter Lumis. He says that he re-injured his hand. And Adam Pearce confronts him saying that the Miz isn't injured. And pretty much, he tells Adam Pearce that he's going to hear from his lawyer. This leads into the Anything Goes match, Dexter Lumis versus The Miz. And I have to say, this match was okay, but I prefer the Sami Zayn Anything Goes match from WrestleMania that he had against Johnny Knoxville. I thought that match was far more entertaining than this one. I mean, there was one spot where Dexter Lumis puts this on his head, and it left me scratching my head, honestly, because I was like, what? But aside from that, I felt like this match was mostly just supposed to be the Miz taking a beating, and that's it, honestly. But it was an okay match. Honestly, they should have just called this what it was, a no DQ match. So Dexter ends up winning this by submission, which means that he's now officially a part of the main roster since he did sign a contract, and that bag of money that The Miz had, he goes around handing kids the money. And there's this one spot where The Miz attacks him from behind, and he takes a poor kid's money. Like, he took the money from him, and Johnny Gargano super kicked The Miz, and he gave that money back to that poor kid. Now, if you guys watch closely, there's this one kid as Dexter Lumis is handing out the cash. He's like checking the money to see if it's real. And I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing too. And I think anybody would have, honestly. Okay. So then we have Dakota Kai versus Candice LeRae, which was actually not a bad match. It was actually a pretty enjoyable match. I actually liked the match. Now, Damage Control tried to come out during picture-in-picture, but they got sent to the back, and I don't know why Io Sky is wearing a neck brace. So Candice LeRae ends up winning this after she gives Dakota Kai a neck breaker off the rope. So my one gripe with this is, again, it goes back to what happened at the beginning and what I talked about previously, is the fact that Damage Control is not looking strong. Dakota Kai is one half of the women's tag team champions. She should be booked strong. I mean, I get it. Candice LeRae got taken out by Damage Control. This is her first match back. You want to give her that big win. But please tell me she's not going to run through Damage Control. I mean, she beat Dakota Kai tonight, but next week is she going to beat Io Sky and then Bayley? Or is she just going to beat Dakota Kai, maybe Io Sky, and then she can't get through Bayley? So I just don't like the fact that Damage Control is not being booked correctly because they don't control anything. They don't. So, like I said, good match, but I just didn't like the fact that Dakota Kai lost. Okay. So then we get a quick backstage segment with, I guess what you want to call them, Team Bianca. She talks about how she's physically been better and how this whole rivalry started at SummerSlam and it ended at Survivor Series. And she makes note that says that every single plan that Damage Control had failed. And she is correct. Everything Damage Control did, they failed. Asuka speaks Japanese in this segment. Interesting thing, though, is that Alexa Bliss kind of looks distracted. She doesn't look like she's really all there. And there's a TV behind them, and Bray Wyatt's logo appears behind that TV screen. And then when it gets to Alexa's turn to be interviewed, she talks about how Bianca was right and Becky was a great call. And that's it. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with Alexa Bliss. Is she going to go being the goddess of WWE? Is she going to just simply turn heel? Is she going to go back to being creepy Alexa? I guess you have to wait and see what they do with her, but it's going to be a slow burn. So our main event was Kevin Owens versus Jey Uso, which is actually a good match. It was a good main event, a good way to close the show, and also was a good way to continue the storyline with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Bloodline. So one of my favorite spots in this match was when Kevin Owens does the DX crotch chop and he does a cannonball to Jey Uso. That fisherman suplex from the second rope was actually pretty cool. I like that spot too. Now, during this match, it was announced that next week we're going to have the Undisputed Tag Titles be defended against Elias and Matt Riddle. How that came about is beyond me. I don't know what Elias and Matt Riddle have done to earn this tag team title shots, but I guess you can say that they have won a tag match against Alpha Academy, so I guess that must count for something. So Jey Uso does multiple super kicks to Kevin Owens in this, and Kevin Owens kicks out of each one of them. Now, Kevin Owens tries to do a pop-up powerbomb, but his back gave out because he's still hurt from competing in the War Games match on Saturday. So one thing I noticed here was that Kevin Owens attempts to do a splash to Jey, which is how Jey beat him during the War Games match, but Jey kicks out of the splash. So Kevin Owens ultimately ends up winning this after he gives Jey a stunner. And so, yes, so Kevin Owens is victorious. And like I said, good main event, and it adds to the storyline. Now, initially, before Survivor Series War Games, I thought that Sami Zayn should be the one to pin Jey Uso at WrestleMania to win the tag titles. Now, based on what happened at War Games, based on what happened on this match, I honestly think that now Kevin Owens should be the one to pin Jey Uso, and he should hit him with the splash, because it will mirror how Jey beat Kevin Owens during the War Games match at Survivor Series. At least that's my take now. But hey, I would not mind if Sami Zayn is still the one who pins Jey Uso. But now, just based on what's happened, I think it makes sense if Kevin Owens is the one who pins Jey Uso, and he does so after he hits a splash on Jey Uso. But that's just me. So overall, tonight's Raw was a fallout from War Games, and it was actually a really good Monday Night Raw. I enjoyed it. There were a couple of things I didn't like. Yeah, so I didn't care for the Anything Goes match with Dexter, Lumis, and The Miz. I felt like that was the weakest part of this show, and I felt like if you take this out, if you take that part out, this would have been a really strong show overall. But like I said, good show top to bottom. So I would give Monday Night Raw an 8 out of 10. And honestly, good main event, decent opener, a great promo by Austin Theory. So, but with that being said, you guys, thank you guys all so much for watching and for the continuous support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified whenever I go live or release a new video. And hopefully I see you guys live on Wednesday after Dynamite. Bye.